Hi everybody, welcome to Name That Literary Device. Please read and discover the analyzed text of The Wise King by Khalil Gibran. Once there ruled in a distant city of Irani a king who was both mighty and wise, and he was feared for his might and loved for his wisdom. Now in the heart of the city was a well, whose water was cool and crystalline, from which all inhabitants drank, even the king and his courtiers, for there was no other well. One night, when all were asleep, a witch entered the city and poured 7 drops of strange liquid into the well and said, "From this hour, he who drinks this water shall become mad." Next morning, all the inhabitants, save the king and his lord chamberlain, drank from the well and became mad, even as the witch had foretold. And during that day the people in the narrow streets and in the marketplaces did not but whisper to one another, "The king is mad. Our king and his lord chamberlain have lost their reason. Surely we cannot be ruled by a mad king. We must dethrone him." That evening the king ordered a golden goblet to be filled from the well. And when it was brought to him, he drank deeply and gave it to his lord chamberlain to drink. And there was a great rejoicing in the distant city of Irani, because its king and its lord chamberlain had regained their reason. This poem is written in prose as a fable. The story takes place over a course of a night and one day in chronological order. Poetic devices from this poem help us to understand the meaning the lesson teaches. The diction. The diction the poet uses gives us clues about the meaning, such as the words loved, wise, strange, and regained. Those 4 words alone can help anyone come up with a theme. So I came up with this theme after reading this poem: wisdom overcomes opposition. Now some people will read the poem and come up with a different theme. It just depends on the reader's interpretation. So let me support my reason for the theme, wisdom overcomes opposition. In the second line of the poem, it states the king was loved for his wisdom. However, later in the story, the inhabitants whispered to each other that the king was mad and he had lost his reason. They even wanted to dethrone him. So what happened? Now we understand that the witch entered the kingdom. No one heard her when she said, "From this hour, who drinks this water shall become mad." So, if no one knew that, think about it. Why would the people eventually call the king mad? You see, I believe this whole poem is about leadership and how a person in leadership responds to opposition. Because when you think about it, what is the opposition? The opposition is the stranger. The stranger used strange liquid to bring harm to the kingdom. This is so fitting with a biblical scripture from John, the 10th chapter and the 5th verse. And it reads, "And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they knew not the voice of the stranger." And this is talking about the sheep and the shepherd. The sheep will not follow a shepherd unless they know the shepherd. They got to be familiar with his voice. So when something's not familiar and they can't recognize it, it's hard to trust. People may not know where evil, opposition, whatever you want to call it, exists. But how will you or I deal with that? Because truly, opposition can come to a kingdom. It could come to a city. It could come to a home. Sometimes if you see changes and something that's not familiar, you can become paranoid. In any regards, something happened that took away some of the trust. What appears to be, I would say, contradicting is the behavior of the people. Isn't it strange that the people who were mad called the king mad? This is a dramatic effect because they don't even realize that they're mad. They probably don't even realize they're mad, and they're calling someone else mad. This is a type of device that's used in this poem. Do you know what type of device it is? So it's a device that contradicts ideas. And in this case, with a dramatic effect. Name that literary device. Irony. That's it. Irony. So, speaking about the irony, the people in the kingdom who had become mad called the king mad. In essence, the people felt, I think they felt inadequate in some way after drinking that water. And perhaps that led on a deeper level to mistrust. So I would love to hear your thoughts about the story and your interpretation, because we understand that someone else could read the story or read this poem and have a totally different point of view. Perhaps someone else would think, well, the king decided no one's going to take his throne, so he's going to decide to drink the water just to please everyone because he wants to keep his kingdom. He wants to stay king. So if you have a different point of view or interpretation that you would like to share, please comment. I'd like to hear from you. Well, that's all for now. Until next time, I'll be coming again with another literary device. Thank you for listening.